Alexa, play 90s alternative.
The station 90s alternative is run on Amazon Music.
Cumulative project for what we're doing for the quarter. That's something that they're creating instead of taking a test that they're probably going to Google the answers and just, do it that way. So I'm trying to create something that's going to authentically show or demonstrate what they've learned, have they mastered it, but still gives them creativity to create their own things so that they can engage in learning. Because right now, I have completely two different groups of kids. Like one group of kids is super engaged, and anytime I have an online meeting, they're there. Like they just want to learn. They don't even care if they're being tested or given a grade. They just want to do it. And then my other group, they're just like super disengaged, and I might have 3 of them that show up out of a whole class. So I'm trying to kind of create something where I can get them engaged because it's something they're choosing to do and they're choosing to learn. So I think that's where I am right now. Is I don't really know how to do this in an online format, because normally I would have a project in class and, they're going to be able to present to each other. And sure, I know how to make digital meetings, or they could, present that way, but is that really what it should look like? Should I have the same product that they're creating in the end, and they have their own learning pathway, or should it be that they're learning the same thing and they have their flexibility to create the product that they want? Sorry, that was like 9 questions, but
that's okay. All right. Yeah, what I got was, certainly interested in doing a cumulative project where they're creating something that may spark engagement, to help increase that to especially kids who have been disengaged. And then how they can authentically show and demonstrate their learning. And another question around, right, is it the same product? Do they have flexibility in that? Is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Susan, did you have any thoughts?
Hello, I'm sorry, I'm eating lunch.
That's okay, I was too. I was scarfing it down and keeping the cat away.
Nothing to add at the moment.
Okay. And then Jen just walked off, but all right. So we'll go there. I think that actually helps me. Amy, thank you, because that helps me kind of formulate some of my thinking. So there are a couple tools that I wanted to show that I use and have teachers have said that they have found really helpful. But the first thing I wanted to do is talk about how do you determine what you need to, like, I'm sorry. I haven't talked to people today. So bear with me as I get my words right. So before you can move on to the online, planning the PBL is really important, and planning what it is that kids will turn in along the way that shows that they're doing is really helpful before you start to set up some of the online things. So the first thing I want to show you guys is Trello, which is a type of Scrum board. I think a lot of people have used these in the past, but maybe not necessarily with kids and in the classroom. But one of the things that's really helpful is before you kind of help kids set up a Trello or a Scrum board or what their task lists are, that you're kind of clear about that. So there's a couple ways that I've worked with teachers to do that. And one is I have 2 documents that I use to kind of plan out a PBL. And I wanted to show you, I wanted to show them to you and kind of where the task list came out. And I've got a million things open, so bear with me. All right, apparently I don't know what's going on here. All right, so I think the first is just, it's called an assessment map. This came from Buck Institute. I don't even know if they still use it, but I really like it. So thinking about the product that you're going to have kids to create, then think about, all right, what's the learning that you want to take place? Or Amy, in your case, what's the learning? What are the standards that you wanted students to showcase? And then if this is the standard, or this is something that they need to show me that they've got, what are the mini tasks that the checkpoints along the way that I need them to do in order to show them, right? So these are almost like, I mean, you can call them, here it's called them for a formative assessment or milestone, but I call them checkpoints, things that, you know, need to be completed, but they're also things that help move along the project, but they're also things that I can use to assess the learning and how it's going along. A lot of times when we shift to PBL, we forget this step. We think only about that final product, but we forget that there are checkpoints along the way, and we need to help guide kids through that, especially if this is like kids' first PBL. You may be having to do a lot more guiding and kind of, I don't want to say GPSing, but really directing that process. I haven't made this particular visual pretty yet, because I was just thinking about it in my head. And I think it just goes to any online tool that you use. You're going to maybe have to guide the students a little bit more at first and then go through there. So can y'all see that? Let me stop sharing. Right. So on any PBL, we're trying to increase student responsibility, and going from more teacher directed to more student directed. So I always feel like this is sort of the teacher working her way out of it so that students can turn on. And this is students kind of owning it, right? Just continuing just to own it just a little bit. So it's sort of this tension between. But that doesn't mean that you need to start here, because maybe your kids, especially in this online environment, they aren't ready for this yet. They're still learning. So you may have to create those mini task lists and help them set that up as you try to. So you're probably going to be more teacher directed, and then going from teacher tight facilitation to teacher loose facilitation to the students really owning the work. And you may be going, you know, up and down on this continuum. Let me pause for any feedback or thoughts about, you know, this here, or the tool, one that the assessment map that could kind of help you think through the tasks that kids are going to need to create. Amy, oh, there you go.
Yeah, sorry, I was getting my thoughts together. So it, like you said, I haven't really talked to many people today, so I've got to organize them. So whenever you're doing this, what kind of timeline do you normally give them in order to kind of move through this process? Because like obviously during, like I have freshmen in one class and I have sophomores in another, and my freshmen, we've been doing projects all year long, but like I said, we've been in a classroom where there's like an accountability piece where they come and meet with me, or they're meeting with other teachers or each other. So what kind of timeline do I give this to kind of let them move through a project that's going to kind of be like their final assessment, like their exam in place, because chances are none of us are doing any kind of final exams. So what kind of timeline should I build this out to? What should I expect from them, I think, is my question, of how long it's going to take them to go from me kind of holding their hand and setting up meetings and setting out breakout rooms to them kind of taking that ownership to their final project and being ready to present it.
Well, I think, so normally when I think about timeline, I ask teachers to think about all the standard, because normally when we do PBL, it's kids are learning through the PBL. So I ask teachers to say, okay, take all your standards. How would you normally teach them? How long would it take you to normally teach them? And be honest, like we know we get pacing guides from our state, but we're not always, we know that there are some places where we're going to take longer and other places where we're not. So be honest with yourself about where you are in that. And then that's the time. When you're having kids doing more of a cumulative project, I would say that's when you can go to your assessment map and you have kind of your checkpoints. You know your kids. Start assigning, what do you think reasonably would it take for them to complete this? And then start to add up those times. So the other document that I've done, and a lot of I feel like I go in and out of love with this document. It was co-created with some of my colleagues when I worked for an organization called North Carolina New Schools, as a way to just sort of flow chart out the planning. And so right here in this area right here is kind of where, let me see if I can get the spotlight. I'm still learning, but this area right here is where I start to be real about that. Here are the checkpoints that we need to do. I'm always looping back to this checkpoint helps me understand that standard, you know, to kind of code it, if you will. It's always connecting back. Here are the standards for this project. So we're linking back, okay, when we do the launch activity, we're assessing for these things, and then start to give it a time. And that's when you can start to sort of put together your time frame for kids in order to do that. That comes through. I'm getting a low systems manufacturer audio quality.
Yeah, I can hear you, but it is, it's not as high as quality as when you first started, but I can still hear everything you're saying.
Okay. Yeah, Jen or Susan, any thoughts or questions?
Nope. No thoughts, no questions.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna try and come out of that. All right, so I'm gonna stop the share, and it may be because I have like 1,000 windows open. So I think, again, getting the kids the task list, you think in terms of yourself, reasonable, what would you want them to do? And I think even during this time, you can think in terms of your own class schedule, keeping things almost on a similar schedule or time frame, knowing that for your class, maybe if it's a 90-minute class, theoretically they're spending 60 to 90 minutes on your class during this time. I know it's weird, but that's, you know, if you want it to translate it. And I think that you're always looking to see if students are starting to own it and if you can start to back away. So a lot of times, so there's a lot of things what that might look like in the beginning of a PBL. You might have to organize meetings with teams of students to set up what your expectations are, and then help them set up their project management plan, right? So this is where project management can really come into helpful. So let me show you guys Trello. I know Susan's familiar with Trello. Jen, Amy, are y'all familiar with Trello at all?
I'm not.
Okay, let me hear.
No.
All right. So what Trello is it's kind of an online Scrum board, and a Scrum is the actual name of a project management technique where you, let's see if I can open up a board here, where you have a list of everything that you're doing, then you have a doing list and a done list. What I love about this is there's a couple things that you can do with this in relating to your kids. I have many different projects, so these are all my to-do list. And when I am, for that week, or maybe even for that day, when I am physically, like my goal is to get that done for the week, I will put it in my doing. And when I'm done with it, I move it to done, right? Like that's just kind of how it is. I can add cards. So put, you know, I can say send email to team, right? Might be a card. And let's say this week I'm doing it and I'm done. This is really an online version of kind of what, if you can all see my background up here, right? I created this, you know, for at home for my daughter and I, right? During this weird time, because it's easier for her to do sticky notes. So even in the classroom, I have teachers do something like this on the board, or each individual student might have a manila folders taped together. But there's a couple cool things that Trello allows you to do beyond just the stickers. So students can put in a detailed description. They can actually write comments. see what I have done. You can see the activity that people have done. You can have kids attach work from Google Drive, OneDrive, their computer, so they can actually attach in a document. Let's see if I can attach in a document. Right, so I want people to see that that's my completed work, and then you go out and it's all right there. Right. So again, you don't have to have this doing, done, or done to do, doing, done, but these can be living things. And then as a teacher, if each student group puts together their own Trello board, as a teacher, you can then, and shares that with you, you can go in and validate. So maybe your thing here is, I have seen it where instead of a done column, they have a to be reviewed column. So nothing gets in the, sorry, I'm running out of, nothing gets in the done column that hasn't been reviewed by the teacher. So maybe as a team, I'm saying, okay, I think I'm done with this. And you as a teacher can go through and say, yep, check, you're done. And you can move it to the done column for them, right? Or you can say, I don't know how to erase stickers to be, oh, there it is. I can remove it. You can say, you really need to look at that. And then open that card up, and in the comments, like you can type in a comment that says, you left out XYZ, right? Fix that, and then I will review again, right? So that allows for sort of this two-way communication between the teachers. And it's free. Kids can sign up using their, and then it can go back to my doing column, and I'm working on it, and then I move it back here, and then you can go back and forth. Students can even, although this is just shared with me, but you can add members, right? So if I'm responsible in my group for researching stuff about a question, they can assign it to me. And then as I'm researching, maybe I put in here my graphic organizer that the teacher's given me. I put the notes that I found, what have you. And then you as a teacher can say, all right, I've reviewed these, but I want everybody in your group has to show me that they've reviewed and have added comments. So there's different ways that you can kind of do this and guide kids through having some of those communications within their team. So let me pause and just sort of hear back from you guys. What do you think about that as a tool and helping to keep kids organized?
I like the Trello, and I like that they can each group have their own, and then they can just invite me to their group, and that way each group is getting their individual feedback and that they can customize it. And it's a way to organize who's responsible for what, because then I can see, is Johnny not doing what he's supposed to do for the group, or is Susie doing everything and she shouldn't be? So I think that's a way for me to help the students hold each other accountable for what's going on in their group.
Yeah, and know that initially it might be a learning curve. So just you may have to workshop it where you meet with each group and help them set up the board, get them logged in. But I think I don't know where I got this, but recently somebody said go slow to go fast. Right? Sometimes we have to go slow at the beginning of a PBL unit, or I would say at the beginning of the year, so that we can go fast later on. And just reminding this is an adjustment for everybody. Jen, Susan, thoughts, questions?
I don't have any questions. It's a pretty cool website.
Yeah. Susan, have you seen this used in schools?
No, I have not seen firsthand use, but of course my mind is wondering how to help teachers use something like this right now, or to start thinking about, I'm already thinking about how I can get teachers who understand a little bit about PBL, but maybe haven't actually done it, how could this be used even if they don't have a firm grasp? How can it be used as a learning tool for the teachers as well as a practical tool
Right.
for virtual learning, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So my
Yeah.
mind is going.
Good. It's a lot of mind going. Yeah. So good. Yeah, and you can do different, different setups. I was even playing around with, let's see if I can go back. I was playing around with, instead of the to do, doing, done, playing around with another setup of like putting the engineering design process phases. See if I can, and then as students move through those, right, they're putting in their cards and stuff, or maybe moving stuff through the different phases. I don't know if it's here. I may have, yeah. So, in my work, I've been going from, so one of the things, so internally, right, as a person, I've learned that if you have Outlook, you can connect your Outlook to Trello. So if you have some emails that you need to not forget to actually do, you can actually email them to a Trello board, right? So that they would come here. I haven't used that feature a lot, but I did set up like where I could drop an email and then I can move it to done. But here's me trying to think about different ways, like here are some ideas that I wanted to do. And then how do I go from here's my idea to initial creation, to feedback, to revision, to finalization, and then it's actually done. So I was playing around with this and then things got busy. So I haven't touched it in a while. So that's just another way to look at it. All right, so any other questions about Trello or thoughts as we look at that? I wanted to show you at least one or two more tools that you can use to support student learning, or even, with your teachers. One of them was Padlet. So let me pause. Because when I shut out Trello, it came on. Any other thoughts or comments or questions about Trello? Okay. Has anybody used Padlet before?
Yeah, I've used Padlet before.
Yeah.
I've used it too.
Yeah. So you probably know it's a great way to share resources. So I won't spend a lot of time on it. Yeah. What, Susan? Huh?
You're the one who really turned me on to Padlet years ago, and I've been using it faithfully ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do lots of different things with it. So for project-based learning, there was an old tool in project-based learning that I think we forget about called project walls. So that's where a teacher in their classroom would create a wall that kids would just go to that has everything about the project there, right? So it's where you might have, here are the tasks, you may have starting resources for them, you may have kids drop in their products or things that they're doing, but it's a sort of living wall within your classroom. To me, Padlet can be your virtual wall. Now, I know a lot of us, y'all probably also have Google Classroom or Google Sites or, God, what is it? In North Carolina, what is it? Is it Power School?
Yeah, Power School and Canvas. Power Schools are great, and Canvas
Yeah,
is
Canvas is the, right. So you may have Canvas, which can serve as this. When I was working with Canvas, I didn't always like, what I didn't like about Canvas is just the way, I like things to kind of be visual. I didn't like how things got laid out. So you could also have a link to your project Padlet for this. And I think I tried to pull up one as just an example that I created for like the Trash to Treasure project. Let's see, here we go. So sometimes with researching, we know that kids, When I think about research, I don't think about just sending kids to Google, because they may or may not yet know how to do that on their own. And especially now that they're online a lot more, we have to consider, well, to be quite honest, I was always finding ways so that kids would not just copy and paste information onto, right, whatever form that I have. And so now that you're online like that and kids are online, that becomes even more difficult. So one thing that I would start with kids that I knew weren't quite yet ready to go out and research their own is I would create a page of resources. So this would be an example. I define the goal for the kids, that remember that your goal here in looking at this thing is to determine what's possible. So, you know, I might have something on your Trello page that I want you to put up there and respond. What did you look at? And what does that now think it's possible? Or maybe I have a Google form that I want you to kind of fill out with some questions about what did I look at? What's possible? Or maybe it's a good, however you want to do it, you know, but I'm pulling the actual resources that I want kids to explore before they go out on Google on their own. And then I also had articles that they do. So just like you might do in the classroom, you could certainly have a class meeting. I love Zoom because it allows for breakout rooms, but you can bring your class together and say, all right, we're launching this project. You're going to be doing this collaboratively, but we're also going to have some times where we come together and we're going to use this protocol for discussing this article. So in your groups, I'm going to put you in breakout rooms, determine which person in your group is going to read what article, then you're going to read it, and then you're going to discuss it using these things, and I'm going to be popping into your breakout rooms while you're doing it. So that's one way to kind of, you might be in that teacher directed or that tightly teacher facilitated moment, but you're also helping to move the learning forward, and you have a one-stop shop for all the resources that you want them to have right in front of their face. And I just like Padlets because it's a visual format. So let me pause and hear back from you guys. What do you thought? What do you think? What ideas are percolating? Since you guys are familiar with this as a tool, what are you thinking?
I've never seen teachers use it to set up, you know, to set up the topics and the links. That's a good idea. Working with middle school students, especially sixth graders, they really can't be, I mean, like some of them can be trusted, but it's a lot of times better just give them the sites. So like this is just, I've never seen it used in this format. Like they'll usually just do a Google Doc and put it on a Google Doc, but this might be a better media for some kids.
Yeah. You could also, let's say you have them as different colors and you have kids at different reading levels, and you know that, you can even assign kids like pick something from the color red, pick something from the color yellow, pick something from the color. So now it allows you to do different colors. It also allows you to do arrows between them. So, let's say you have two really short articles versus an article that's really long. You can say, all right, if you pick this article, you're doing these two, and you've connected them with an arrow. So there's some choose your own adventure type stuff that you might be able to set up here as well. Amy, Susan, what about you guys?
I liked having it set up as a way, instead of just like letting them loose on the internet, like giving them kind of a structure and saying, okay, start with these first, and then you can add to your own research, because that's one of the things that I feel like my students oftentimes like. And with the Padlet, I've used it before, but not quite this way for like a project like that, where I'm kind of sending them, okay, here's this. And then like, I liked your idea of levels. So I could even have, okay, the first level, everybody has to find some information, because that might be the content that I want to make sure that everybody's getting.
Yeah.
And then yellow could be further like, okay, this is where we're kind of starting to diverge. What are you interested in? And then the red could just be, hey, here's stuff that I'm finding. What are you guys finding that's more specific to what you're interested in? So I could even not necessarily the reading categories, but diverge it based on, okay, we all have to learn this, but then this is where we can start to go. And if you're interested, like following your own little rabbit hole, where does it go? And giving them that flexibility and freedom for that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Susan, what about you?
Leslie, I use mine with PLCs, with teachers, and also some of my leadership work with principals, because we talk about so many things and so many ideas. As each of us finds things, we throw them in onto the board in the different categories, and then it's a one-stop shop when we do get together face to face to refer back to.
Yeah, and I certainly do that with my schools as well. I was trying to see if I had one. So Padlet, I don't know if I have it up here, but Padlet also now allows you to be able to make it so that you can comment on stuff or rate stuff. So if you haven't played around with that, you can turn on the comment feature. You can do reactions or votes or stars or even like grades. I'll just do the like one here. And you can even filter profanity, so it replaces bad words with nice emojis. I've never had anybody like working with teachers. Luckily, teachers, sometimes my middle school teachers will try to sneak one in there, but I haven't yet in session in my PDs. But I really like those features, because then you could have kids actually go through and, you know, have to make a comment about something. You know, or when you look at it, I want you to respond to that in there. So it's again, it's another way to interface with technology, you're making it work for you, keeping the learning real, and making it so it's not just copy and paste. Those are the two big tools that I wanted to show you. Another one, just for a quick formative assessment, is Flipgrid. I don't want to spend up most of your time, but if you haven't used this or seen this before, it allows for students to film themselves talking about something or a product that they're developing, and they can pop it up on, and then they can, so here's one that I was trying to showcase with the teacher that I was working with, just so that with kids' phones, they can, and you can do different assignments on there and have it pop it up. I was trying to see if you could see one of my silly videos that I created, right? So you can see. Hey, welcome to Flipgrid. You know, so you can have kids like introduce themselves to get it, but then you can say, all right, now that you guys have, so in my engineering world, you've brainstormed, I'm assuming that, so I want you to Flipgrid what you've brainstormed and how you talked about it in your group, and I want everybody to do it within the group. Or I want your group leader to give me a Flipgrid on where you are in the process, and they pop it up. So it's just another one to play around with, to kind of, to keep the learning going. All right. So, hey, welcome to Flipgrid. Oh, sorry, it went off again. All right. So I know it's like 12:45. You guys have spent some time with me, or 12:42. Any final questions? Any final thoughts? Let me stop the share.
Well, my overarching thought is that, Leslie, your work has never been more relevant than it is right now.
There you are. Thank you. Amy, Jen, thoughts?
Yeah.
Questions?
I was just going to say, I appreciate seeing some of these things that I've used before, because I've used Flipgrid before, but thinking about using it this way to demonstrate their brainstorming, like, it's really helpful to know that things that I've used before and the kids have used before, and rethinking about them using them with the PBL, I think is very essential and very useful to know that, hey, we've all done this and we know what we're doing, so they're not having to learn the tools from scratch. They're just using them in a different way that we haven't thought about before.
Great. That was my goal, is I wanted teachers to know that they can do what they've done before, just a little bit differently. Hold on. Sorry. Jen, how are you?
No, I really like Trello, because I hadn't seen that before. I've used Padlet and Flipgrid before. But yeah, the Trello I think could be a pretty neat app. So thanks for sharing.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's not about recreating. You can do things that you've done, just maybe tweak it a little bit for the intention that you want. So making it purposeful and meaningful. And that's the goal of all learning, right? How we can make it purposeful and meaningful.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I might just do another Zoom tomorrow. I am recording this, so if I can figure out maybe to upload it to Facebook or YouTube, I'll do that later today. And tomorrow, my plan was to go deep into some planning tools that you can use to sort of flesh out your PBL, and really thinking about how, again, you can do what you've done before, but how do you take what you've done before and just, translate it to an online environment? So I have several planning tools that I use in order to get my thinking straight. I'm just going to say you don't have to use them all. They're just different ways that I've learned how to think and try to work with different types of brains in my work. And so I'll share those. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.